Okay, thank you very much. I think I'll start. Um, Good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're from. My name is Rania Jabr. I'm a senior instructor too at the Department of English Language Instruction at the American University in Cairo. And I'm very grateful to Teachable Arabia for allowing us to present on Zoom. I know that this is a lot of effort, needs a lot of organization, and thank you for doing that. Today, I'm going to talk about group work and how group work, if done correctly, can be actually a teachable moment for the students in our classroom. I'll begin by asking everybody a question. I would love to, if you could basically try to one-word answer or many words, just short words, simple words as an answer to the question. The question is, what is your first problem when using group work in your classes, when grouping your student? What happens? What do you think happens at the very beginning? Any problems you may face? Nerves, yes, nerves, definitely, definitely. On the part of the student and the teachers, yes. Yeah, forming the groups, definitely. They don't want to work with each other. Yes, 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 of course. They don't want to, it's kind of an unpleasant experience. Equitable and unequitable work divisions, definitely, definitely. Thank you very much. I'm going to show you now on the screen a number of problems that I actually have been facing with group work. And this has led me to tackle this topic. It's an interesting topic, which is often often forgotten variable in language teaching. But it's important because we actually do it on a daily basis, I hope, in our classes. So these are the problems that I face, okay? Timing, the setting up of the groups, how to keep them on task, I mean, they often wander or switch to the first language, involvement, noise, the class becomes basically, unbearable with the amount of noise and side conversations, accountability, whether the group or the individual, whether there's a grade involved afterwards, whether there's something that they have to submit, and the time to do it, carving out time in the class, the daily class schedule. All right, moving along. So today I'm going to talk about group works, and let's define first of all the construct. What I mean by small group works is from 2 of a pair, depending on the number of students you have, up to 5, not more than 5. And I would suggest that we divide the students according to their learning needs. The weak student in grammar with another stronger student in grammar, for example. And my groups, I think, should be flexible and interchangeable. So in class, if I'm doing 2 tasks, in the first tasks, I have separate grouping, and then I reshuffle the groups and I move them to other groups. We'll talk about this further in a few minutes. And of course, a very important thing to remember is in group work, the students don't all need to work on the same thing. Each group can have a separate task to do, and then they come together and they share their experiences and fill in the gaps. So why are we doing small groups? We want students to focus, and they often drift and they often basically, lose concentration, to reduce interruptions, and to incorporate all the students in the groups. I feel when they are part of the group, I mean, another member would bring their attention if they drift or they start looking at their phone or they start, I don't know, Googling for something. The groups, small groups are independent. They can find and figure out their own mistakes working together. And the shy students, the ones that do not really care for standing up and showing themselves in class, shining, they thrive in small groups. I feel the shy student is brought in also by his peers. It's a very first step in the 21st century skill of collaboration, teaching them to learn to collaboration from the beginning, teaching them to learn problem-solving techniques. And I use it a lot for focus on specific skills. So this group is working on vocab. The other group is working on grammar. The third is group working on organization. And the last one is talking about focusing on the ideas. And of course, my classes are long. Our classes are long. The way the setup is, no time to describe in detail the setup, but this basically takes a part of a good chunk of the class, and it's time well invested, not time wasted. And of course, it's a very diplomatic way to teach the students how to manage themselves in a classroom setting. It's not discipline, but it's basically incorporating them into the class dynamics. In small groups, students learn more and retain information longer. This is not actually what I think. This is what the literature says. And I've done a lot of research about this topic, and I will share with you at the end of the presentation a list of articles that I would recommend if you'd like to read further on this subject. They learn more from each other, and they remember the information longer. I recall quite clearly that sometimes when I'm in an individual conference with a student and I bring up a point, a grammar point or a vocabulary item or whatever, and he would say that, I remember when we were doing the group work the other day, my friend Hala said blah, blah, blah. So they connect even the information that they've learned with the students sharing the information in the group. So I thought this was a very variable learning or a very variable aha moment, So types of small groups: homogeneous groups, heterogeneous groups. I'm going to go over them very quickly so that we can see the advantages and disadvantages for each type. And then you'll be able to make an informed decision on which type you would rather use, depending on the situation in your own class. Homogeneous groups, from this name, basically the members of the group are similar. They are the same level, the same ability. And this is a way to adjust the pace, because sometimes in class we're going too slow for the strong learners, or on the other hand, we're going too fast for the weak learners. So this is a way when you create homogeneous groups to adjust the level, adjust the pace. So the students are the same level, doing the same skill. And in this way, we can, as instructors differentiate instruction. So basically we are saying this group is weak in vocabulary. Here is a specifically created, specifically crafted vocabulary exercise to help them improve this area of weakness. But on the other side, on the flip side, the students do notice that they are in the low group. So I never use the word low group or weak group. I know that, okay? They can feel it, but it's not something that we advertise, because I shuffle the groups often, then basically it goes all it disappears in the wash, as they say. So they don't realize that, we're always in the weak group, or we're always grouped with such and such a person. And as the literature indicates, there is not great improvement in homogeneous groups. However, we sometimes have to resort to them for a certain purpose. You are weak and you need more extra practice on this particular point. On the other hand, the heterogeneous groups, from the name, different levels. In the heterogeneous groups where there's a mixture of strong students and weak students, the strong students, and this is a very important word, and I put it between quotes for a reason, they teach the weaker ones. And I'll repeat this very famous saying, which is basically students learn from each other. The stronger students are role models, or they model the right answers to the weak ones. And this is a very important point to make use of in our classes. There is I+1 learning going on. Krashen's famous I+1 is a little bit above the level because the group is pulled up by the work of the strong students. They collaborate, they communicate, they discuss, and as I said, the strong ones model the answers to the weak ones, and the weak ones remember that, they don't forget it. However, of course, there is always the other side, which is the disadvantage. The strong students sometimes feel bored. Hence, again, I shuffle the groups and I put them with other groups. Or sometimes I put two strong students in a heterogeneous group with other students who are either middle level or on the weaker side. And of course, sometimes when there are too many strong students, the work is not accessible to the weaker students. So it is very important for us educators, and this is my message today, one of the messages I'm sharing, is to work carefully on crafting and carefully selecting the groups and organizing them. Procedures. How do we go about it? There are three main steps, and I'm going to go through each one of them separately. Planning the groups, organizing the work that needs to be done, and practicing. And the three are quite important for the success of the use of group work. In my classes, I have been doing group works almost daily for almost everything, even writing an essay, even writing a summary, even preparing their work to give an oral presentation. So what is very good when we are setting the scene for group work is to use icebreakers or team building activities, so that in the beginning, the students feel more comfortable with themselves, especially at the beginning of the semester or the term or the year, depending on your situation, when students really don't know each other very well. This is a way for them to get to know each other, to feel familiar with each other. And the way the groups are set up, I'm going to talk about that also in great detail later, is we want them to practice the consistency. I'm not going to vary what is required of them. There is consistency in the giving of the instructions. There's the consistency in the expectation. There's the consistency in the what they are accountable for, what they have to submit at the end, and they practice that. So there is no new element of surprise or shock, which is good. This familiarity is very important. I also, when I'm dividing the groups, I consider the student's passion. So if a student is passionate about, for example, loving big words and loves to use big words, I will sprinkle them around the groups. I won't put them all, lump them all in one group. I share with the students steps to complete the task. And this is very important, is I don't want them in the middle of the task or the activity to stop what they're doing and try to figure out, what are we supposed to do next? Where are we going? So I share the instructions at the very beginning, maybe on the screen. I asked them to repeat it to me. I asked each group to ensure that they know what they're doing, so that the group work is smoothly flowing. It's ongoing. And of course, when the students know or familiar with or have expectations about what they're supposed to do, there's an atmosphere of trust. Not only trust in me as an instructor or trust in the process, but also trust in their colleagues. So they are more focused on basically getting through the assignment, getting through the task, doing it in the best possible way. All right, because if they start second guessing themselves or questioning what they're going to do, the lack of trust really affects their performance. And of course, I keep repeating again, recycle groups often. During each class, students don't sit in the same group for the whole class. They do a task, then we shuffle the groups. Same thing, the next class, the following class, I keep a tally of who worked with whom. And I try to vary as much as possible, given the number of students I have. So the three steps are planning, organizing, and practicing. Planning, I also model to them in the planning stage of the task, using think alouds, what they're supposed to do. So if they're supposed to write a thesis and an outline of their essay, for example, I go through it in a think aloud model. And I tell them, I need to do this, I need to do that, you need to have this, you need to have that. And this is a correct thesis, this is an incorrect outline. I can even show them on the screen, without leaving it with them, just for them to look at a sample of a completed task. This is what the final product looks like. This is the end goal. This is the end result. And I also tell them basically that you're accountable. And you're accountable for example, delivering an outline at the end of this 15-minute task, or delivering a thesis statement and two supporting details, whatever it may be. So they know the deliverables. What are the deliverables? As if they are in a work environment. And of course, there's always the situation where there are early finishers. And I have to think ahead and plan, oh, what are they going to do? They're not going to sit twiddling their thumbs. First of all, they're going to stress the other students who are still struggling. and they might start talking. The class tends to be noisy, so I have something handy for them. For example, I say, okay, you finished the thesis and the supporting details. Give me 2 examples, practical examples about what you're talking about, or give me the first part of your conclusion, whatever it may be. And of course, I switch things up. This group is doing vocabulary, next time they're doing grammar, next time they're doing writing. So each group gets exposed to different types of tasks and activities. When we are organizing the tasks or the small group work tasks, I consider the strengths of the students and the weaknesses of the students, of course, and this is how I carve the groups, but I also consider the academic needs. I have looked at their essays, I have looked at their summaries, and I've noticed that, for example, X student is weak on his or examples. So I put him with a student who has strong examples. Or X student is not very able to give his opinion in the opinion section of the essay. So I take note and I put him with that other student in another group. So basically, I am hitting two birds with the same stone. I consider their personalities. Some students basically maybe are too friendly with each other. So the group work activity ends up being basically a chuckling session where they're laughing out loud and they're basically not focusing. Or some students really don't get along. I've noticed that they're not very, they're always too competitive or too, I don't know, they bicker with each other. So I make sure I try to avoid putting them alone in a pair or put them separately in separate groups. Of course, always given the number of students you have in class. Students with behavior problems, I put them with other students who are maybe calmer or more responsible. And I teach them when I'm organizing also how to ask for help. You can't just shout out a question. You need to raise your hand. I will come to you. I will ask you, or write it down on a piece of paper. I'll collect the papers and go around and help you. There has to be a system, a way on how to break the momentum and ask for help. Choice, I give them choice at the beginning. Say, okay, guys, for example, I say, who would like to write the vocabulary in the vocabulary? I decided that this group needs to do vocabulary and that group needs to do vocabulary, 2 groups. But I can give them choice within the groups and say, who would like to put the words in sentences, and who would like to Google the words and find the definitions, for example. And I keep checking in with them on their progress, very discreetly, very quietly, moving around to check what they're doing. The third step, as we agreed, is the practice, where I have the struggling student first answer certain questions. Okay, it's not a way of putting them on the spot, but it's basically, tell me what you've learned, to encourage them. Tell me what did you find out. I scaffold the learning. Sometimes to help them, I put something on the screen, or I give a handout to assist them, or I say, okay, you can Google this, or can you use AI for that, depending on the situation or the task. I time them. I like to time the different components of the task. So this beginning part, you need only 5 minutes, and the second part, 10 minutes, whatever. So it keeps them online, and it keeps them on the target. And I also, of course, give a 5-minute warning toward the end. Break after the first task. Students, chat a little bit, walk around a little bit, and we rotate and we change our groups and reshuffle the groups. In case sometimes the task falters, it just something is going wrong, it's too difficult, or it's too easy, and they finish in 5 minutes. And okay, they got it. It seems they got it. It's easy. The other day I was doing something with them on the passive, and I thought it was easy, difficult or challenging. They were supposed to correct the sentences and make them into, correctly framed passive sentences. They got it. Although they had major problems with the passive at the beginning of the semester, it seems they got it fine. Next, I had a backup task and we moved to something else. All right, the class atmosphere is an important component. It needs to be comfortable, low key. Things are organized. I'm always on top of things. I don't want them running around, whether they are adults or they are young children, or they are teenagers. We want them to be organized, so they don't get up from their places until I give them a number or I assign them a group name or whatever. It has to be interactive and effective. The effective component is extremely important. When the effective filter is low, basically they learn better. They put their inhibitions aside. They accept the new information, the new learning, and I give them enough time to work at own pace. There will always be the fast finishers, the people who finish very quickly, and I have something for them. And the class atmosphere needs to be autonomous. I do not think it's a good idea for me to interrupt them every few minutes and go and correct something or answer a question. So I tell them, maybe most of the time, I tell them, write down your questions on a piece of paper, group questions, and leave it. And I'll deal with it in a few minutes. But just keep them, I want to keep the momentum going or the flow going. Moving along, I would like to tell you about the components of successful small group tasks. We want to motivate the students. Remember, always put in a question to personalize the learning. They love that. And it makes them remember what they've learned, even if it's something as simple as grammar or vocabulary. I tell them, give me a question, a sentence, create a sentence from your own life about your own experience. It's one way to break the ice in the class. It's one way to personalize the learning. And it's also one way to get them to lower their effective filter and feel that they are, they can share. Sometimes they talk about their pets, sometimes talk about their siblings, The group tasks are interactive. So when I notice that some group is quiet or there's a lull, I do go over to them and try to see what's going on and figure out why are they silent. I want to hear a little low-key buzz to indicate that they are actually working, okay? I help them with audiovisual support. I like to use a lot of pictures on the screen and maybe it's something from a PowerPoint to get them, triggered or get them excited. And of course, to ensure the task is not too difficult and not too easy. We want to make sure it's in the middle, I+1. Too difficult, they will give up. Too easy, they'll finish in 2 minutes and then we will not have anything to do, anything else to do. 2 tasks very quickly. I'm running out of time. 2 tasks very quickly that I recommend for small group experience, interactive, the very famous fishbowl experience. And it's something that I've referred to in the past in my previous presentations, but also I do a lot, in which the students sit in 2 groups, one group, smaller group in the middle, a larger group outside. The middle group is the one discussing. The middle group is the one talking out loud. The middle group is the one creating or brainstorming loud. The outer circle, the outer group is the one that basically takes notes. And then we switch the experience. We put the outer circle people inside and the inner circle people outside, and we do the experience again. At the end of the experience, there's a whole class discussion in which students basically share the notes they have taken. They share orally what they have learned, likes, dislikes, and they are asked to say, for example, I heard Jonah saying blah, blah, blah. I agree, I disagree. I will have taught them also the polite words to use to interrupt somebody, the polite words to use to talk about somebody. I might be wrong, but I tend to think that. Personally, I believe that, and I teach them how to use these words. The second and last task that I want to share is you are the classroom teacher today. You are in the teacher's shoes. And this is not only one person, but also a group, a very small group. Today, you are the teacher. Today, you are going to be teaching the past perfect or revising the passive or giving us vocabulary words related to the theme we're talking about these days, which is health, mental health and physical health. It will be a summary or a review of what we have been doing. It's nothing new. But today, the professor is not feeling like teaching, and you're going to be the teacher. Sometimes I ask for volunteers and create the group. Sometimes they basically raise their hand, and they're always eager to basically be the teacher. It's another form of think aloud, in which students basically share what they've learned and what they know. Stations are very important, meaning the groups are given a station status. So this group is the grammar group. And I tell them out loud, you are the vocabulary group, you are the ideas group. And the students practice the skills they have taught. And giving them the title is very good because it gives them an anchor to their thinking. Oh, okay, I'm now doing vocab. I'm not all over the place. I'm focused on one thing. At the end I'm almost finished. At the end of any group work, whether group in a small group or a large group or whatever, any group work or any group task, there has to be a reflection. And there are 3 types of reflection. Students can self-assess. How was their experience? How do they feel? What was the mechanics of the group? Did the group succeed together as a group? Did they feel comfortable in the group? Using cool feedback, of course. Another way is to sum up your experience, whether orally or in writing. I like them to write something, a very short piece on, what happened. Tell me what happened today when you practice this in your group. Or critically thinking about the experience and linking it to other things they've learned, another article we've read, another reading we've read, another video we've watched, maybe some event in the real world, something that happened in their community, linking it to the world. So there are 3 ways to reflect after group work. My final tips as I leave this wonderful group and this presentation is we need to assess the process while the student's working, not just the product. And assess things that like the hidden things like timeliness, cooperation, turn taking, not just assess the correctness of what they produce. And of course, each member of the team has to evaluate the team as a whole and evaluate their own role and what they have contributed. So I have actually a form that I give to the students. Your role, how was your role? What do you think of your own role? And what do you think of the group in general? Without mentioning names, just the group dynamics. In conclusion, I would like to say that small group time tasks shouldn't be done just because you have to do them or because they are, in the literature, it says do group work, but they are very valuable, very useful if organized, planned, and executed correctly. At the end of my presentation, I would like to share with you my reference list. I would advise or invite you to basically, if you'd like to read some more about this idea, and I'm open to questions if people have any questions. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I will, thank you. Thank you very much.